One of my favorite features from Black Ops 4 Zombies is the addition of bots. It's great to be able to play a match with any number of players, but the bots can be a bit strange. They do increase damage and kill on sight, which makes them good at protecting you, but they also steal a lot of kills. They aren't good at maneuvering around the zombies, so they're invulnerable to them, but they struggle with the special enemies and map hazards. They can grab power-ups and will usually avoid nukes, but will rush for the full powers even though they can't use their specialist weapons. The match will also end if all players die, even if a bot is still standing. They can revive you, but sometimes will just choose not to. Basically, playing with bots is pretty different from playing with real people. So I wanted to see if I could do an Easter egg with them. It's been done before, they just need to be carried through the whole thing. And I still haven't done the 9 Easter eggs, so I decided I would try it on that map. I put together this class, mostly based on a guide's recommendation. Shout out to Jolts, by the way, who's making Black Ops 4 guides in 2023. I assembled my team, which was composed of A. Hayes, V. Sharma, and the legendary Kevin Sherwood. When we were all ready, we started the first match. In the beginning, the main focus is to get the free upgraded Strife, the Shield, and Pack-a-Punch. Once that's done, we can start the first step by locating the skull in the temple. I can't save a zombie at the end of the round because of the bots, but they are pretty good at protecting me while I look. I found it, but unfortunately it didn't come out the first time, so I did have to come back for it. On a special round, I got one of the gladiators to hit the pyre with his axe so that I can get the piece of wood. The bots did not like this round though, so I had to finish it myself and get the wood after. And because the bots don't bother to avoid the fire, they got a low enough crowd affinity to get the poop. Now I just had to get the Death of Orion and grind the skull. I put all the ingredients in the bowl, then put the fertilizer under the Danu Tower a few rounds after, and a few rounds after that, I was ready to purge the blight. This is where I encountered the first major problem. The bots will not stand on this spot with me. I just kept standing there hoping that they would get close enough to trigger the step, but they just kept running laps around the room. I was prepared to say that it's not possible to do this quest with bots, but when I bled out, this happened.
The corruption consumes!
So it is possible to do, I just had to figure out how to do it. I reworked my class a little for the next attempt. I swapped the Strife for the SOG since I'd be getting a free upgraded one anyway, and I equipped Wraithfires instead of Acid Bombs since the bots can get low crowd affinity themselves. Also, a new game means a new team. This time I'd be playing with Jimerson, Donnell, and Brian Toohey. I got back to the purge step, but this time with a plan. I was thinking that I could lure the bots over to this spot by going down on top of it. If I was lucky, they would all gather around to try and revive me, especially if some of the other bots went down as well. And, amazingly, this worked. I got this step to trigger, but now I had a new problem. The health of these spores must have been scaled for 4 players, but I was the only one who'd be shooting them, and I didn't have enough ammo. However, I could knife them, and the zombies spawn in short bursts, which the bots could easily handle. But if you think I was going to sit here and knife these buds, you'd be absolutely right. That is exactly what I did for the next 40 minutes.
Danu has been appeased.
After shooting the 4 bull symbols around the map, we were on the raw step. And as I had feared, if the bots kill a special enemy in the wrong order, we would fail the step and have to retry next round. Sadly, I didn't get to try too many times because I went down and Donnell here decided not to revive me. For the next game, I put on the Scepter of Ra in hopes that the bots would be attracted to its Shining Beacon ability. I also put on Bandolier Bandit for more ammo during the purge, and I equipped Mule Kick in the Odin slot. Mule Kick's modifier ability is to get your 3rd gun back after losing it, so my plan was to have the Death of Orion be that 3rd gun. That way, if I lost it while trying to trigger the purge step, I'd still have 2 bullet weapons to use, and I could get it back after. Unfortunately, the Scepter didn't work, so I still had to lure in the others by going down, and I also lost Bandolier Bandit in the process, but having that 2nd bullet weapon instead of the Death of Orion worked perfectly. I was able to do the whole thing in about 5 minutes this time. Soon after that, we were back to the raw trial, and we still had the same problem. I don't think there are any tricks to make this easier, it just requires an insane amount of luck. The order that it gives you is really important. Generally you want faster and weaker enemies first, like tigers and brawlers, and then the slower and bulkier enemies last, like water and fire catalysts. But even if you get a good order, you still have to hope that you get good spawns. So I just kept trying, over and over. And at this point in the game, the rounds could last up to 10 minutes, and each attempt at the trial could be over in seconds, so I was kind of losing my sanity here. And for the record, you can't kill the bots and do it solo, they have to be there. It took until round 41 to get lucky enough to get it done. Honestly, the order wasn't even that good. It was Water, Fire, Poison, Gladiator. I just got really lucky with the spawns. Now we had to do it a second time, which thankfully only took another 4 rounds, with an order of Brawler, Poison, Fire, Water.
Ra has been appeased.
To start the next step, the Zeus trial, you have to interact with the podium while everyone is on it, which I chose to do in between rounds so that we wouldn't get caught up here and die. Thankfully, they don't have to be on it for long, I just need to hit it while they're all up here at the same time. We teleported underground, and all I had to do was shoot the 4 screws, but while doing so I got overwhelmed and took it down. Probably because I wasn't using Victorious Tortoise. When I looked to my team for help, I realized that they weren't playing anymore. Teleporting down here must have confused them. And so the game would end here after 3 hours, which was really disheartening because I wasn't sure I could get that lucky again with the first 2 trials. What I really needed was a better way to do the Danu trial, so I began experimenting. I tried it with just 2 bots instead of 3, assuming that they'd be easier to manage, but they struggled to survive and we died during the purge. Although I did discover that the bots would crawl to me if they were all down, which I could use to lure them to the fertilizer without going down myself. But getting them there was the issue. The spike traps were too far, and they were resistant to the acid trap at this point, so a special round was probably my best bet. But I'd still have to survive on my own in this one spot long enough for them to crawl over and activate it. I only got this to work 1 time, but 2 of them bled out after teleporting, and Campos just couldn't handle it. I tried using point drops, Now You See Me, and Stone Cold Stronghold to lure them in, all to no avail. I tried killing the bots and doing it solo, which actually can be done, but it's too much to handle when it's scaled for a team of 4. Ultimately, I tried with just 1 other bot. I figured that 1 would be manageable, and it'd be close enough to a solo match that it wouldn't be too challenging. This is Toda, and he was going to be my Easter egg buddy. We made our way back to the Danu trial without much trouble. I tried to lure him in with point drops, but unfortunately he wouldn't stay still long enough, so I had to use the going down method to trigger this step. We got through the purge rather smoothly, sacrificed the 4 gladiators to Ra, and were ready for his trial. Unsurprisingly, this step is way easier with just 1 bot, and we actually managed to get it done in just 3 attempts. Before initiating the Zeus trial, I killed the bot with a spike trap so that I could get Homunculus. Those plus Victorious Tortoise made this step a lot easier. Charging the rods was a little tricky, especially the ones on the side by the pyres. Toda was disrupting my trains, so I just took my time and played it safe. I got most of them charged up thanks to a special round, and I used Homunculus afterwards to lure in the gladiators and get this step done. But interacting with the orbs on the podium was an issue. I think all players need to do it at the same time, and of course Toda wasn't going to, but fortunately I was able to activate this step after letting him bleed out. It was probably for the best though. This part is the onslaught and Toda wouldn't have stood a chance. It wasn't too bad on my own, but the fire made it a little awkward. I ended up going down right as it ended and I was worried that I had failed, but the announcer claimed that
Zeus has been appeased.
And luckily I still had my self-revive, so I got back up and moved on. The next step is to trick shot the symbols underground with the Wonder Weapon. Originally my plan was to do them in between rounds, but since Toda was already dead, I saved a gladiator and did them all this round. However, I made the pretty dumb mistake of not saving much ammo for the Serket's Kiss, so I couldn't afford to miss many shots here. I struggled quite a bit with the first one, and I missed a few for the second, leaving me with just 1 single round left to do the last one. I lined myself up as best I could, and thankfully I pulled it off. Now we just had to channel the Flood, which requires all players to stand on this panel in the pit. Now I had had enough of wrangling the bots during the Danu trial, but I did want Toda to be included, especially for the lockdown, so the plan was to stand here by myself, trigger the lockdown, and hopefully kill the last gladiator in time to change the round and respawn my buddy. This didn't actually work, but at least I tried. The lockdown itself wasn't that bad. The Serket's Kiss, Homunculus, Spike Trap, Spitfire Wallbuy, Shield Bench, and the max ammos that don't expire were all very helpful. Eventually the enemies stopped spawning and I was a little worried that it had glitched out, but I actually just had to grab the key.
Odin has been appeased.
It was finally time for Toda and I to do the boss fight, and honestly I didn't think we'd ever get this far. When I was ready, I changed the round to respawn Toda and finish this quest.
To destroy evil.
Except that we couldn't do it. All players need to interact with the gate, and my bot buddy was not capable of doing so. So I guess I just gotta do it solo, which is a little disappointing because I really wanted to bring a bot to the boss fight. So I downed Toda with a spike trap, let him bleed out, and went back to the gate. But it still wasn't working. It seems like all players do have to be present to start this boss fight. I had one last idea. It was probably a long shot, but still worth a try. I was thinking that maybe if I go down in front of the gate and hold X while Toda revives me, it would register as both of us holding X and it would let us fight the final boss. Sadly, Toda did not want to revive me, and this 2.5 hour match would end here. Like I said, this was probably a long shot, and the prompt didn't even show up while I was down, so I doubt this would have even worked. Now, unless anyone else has any other ideas, I'm pretty confident that this Easter egg is not possible with bots. With enough luck, you can do all the other steps, but even with someone as cool as Toda, you simply cannot enter the boss fight.